Today I'm going to show you an action thriller film from 2012, titled Get the Gringo. Be ready for spoilers ahead. The story begins with a fierce pursuit as two lawbreakers disguised as jesters flee toward the Mexican border. One of them is severely wounded in the back seat, blood staining a bundle of money. Their getaway vehicle veers off the road, closing in on the border while the driver races alongside the barrier searching for any opening to cross over. They're hotly pursued by Mexican federal cops and the U.S. Border Patrol as they try to leap over the wall from a makeshift ramp. The car crashes and comes to a halt on Mexican territory, bringing the chase to a close. Officer Vasquez from the Mexican Federal Police and Bill from the United States Border Patrol reach a mutual understanding. The lawbreakers will be taken into American custody. However, when Vasquez spots a bag of money in the back seat, he strikes a shady deal with Bill, using it as leverage to persuade him to release the criminals. Consequently, the American Border Patrol departs without their fugitives, while two unidentified cowboys watch from a safe distance. Vasquez applies contemporary Mexican police techniques to the driver but struggles to unearth his true identity. Since the driver refuses to reveal who he really is and he's the only American there, Vasquez and his partner Romero called him the Gringo. They take the money and charge Gringo, who manages to provide them with fingerprints that are impossible to decipher. After processing, they transport him to a detention facility. A chaotic and turbulent place teeming with inmates who are armed and where rules seem non-existent. Soon, a group of convicts assaults him, aiming to snatch his boots and subjecting him to a brutal beating. The warden visits the inmates shortly after, announcing their imminent transfer to El Pablito, the main prison. Following this, an American consulate officer named Jack arrives and inquires about the American prisoner. Gringo responds that they'll talk later and resolve matters. Despite having previous jail experiences, Gringo gets surprised when they transfer him to the general population area. Within the premises, there are stores, food vendors, and tattoo parlors. While scanning the prison, Gringo spots the man who had attacked him earlier and decides to tail him. Gringo confronts the man, pushing him into a bathroom and rendering him unconscious, and after ensuring he's alone, Gringo seizes the man's firearm and personal belongings and discreetly hides the gun inside a bathroom stall. He makes off with his money and a high-end wristwatch, then returns to the courtyard where inmates are scattered on the grimy ground and settles down for a nap. The next day, several armed officers closely guard Gringo as they transfer the detainees to the prison's recycling facility. A prison nurse draws his blood for an undisclosed experiment. Later, when he spots a man in a bathrobe along with two of his associates in a penthouse, he comes to understand that money can buy a degree of autonomy. To kick things off, Gringo bribes the guards with a small sum and manages to secure a day off to leverage his skills. He navigates through the bustling crowd and identifies his first target, the cash stash hidden in a drug den. Gringo pilfers a can of cooking oil and ingeniously uses it to ignite a food cart, creating a diversion that captivates the onlookers while leaving the money unattended. He snatches the money and escapes while everyone rushes to extinguish the fire. As he watches the cart burn, a 10-year-old boy approaches him and requests a cigarette. When Gringo declines, the boy reveals he witnessed the theft and threatens to report him if he doesn't meet his demand. The boy resides in the prison with his mother and claims to possess special status. He also asserts that anyone with enough money can live within the prison alongside their family, which means non-inmates have the freedom to come and go as they please. As they continue getting acquainted, the kid's mom catches him smoking and hurries him back home. Later, Jack pays Gringo a visit, offering to help him escape from the prison. However, Gringo provides Jack with a fabricated identity and backstory while maintaining his innocence. Jack, however, questions the authenticity of Gringo's story and suspects he's a seasoned criminal, highlighting how he obliterated his fingerprints. This lack of trust hinders their partnership, leading them to part ways. Gringo sets out to plan his own escape, and Jack pledges to uncover the truth about him. Gringo rents a small living space from Cartels, the prison's real estate agent. Later that night, the prison king throws an extravagant party for the special inmates, replete with alluring partygoers. Gringo peers through a window and is surprised to see the warden among the attendees, but it's the Mexican boy's mother who catches his attention. They almost share a moment before she delivers a slap to his cheek. The following morning, an inmate is fatally shot in the prison break, underscoring that escape is not a viable option. As the kid approaches Gringo, they delve into a conversation about his mom working for Javi, the prison king. The boy reveals that Caracas, Javi's brother, and Carnal, his cousin, serve as Javi's enforcers. Javi has a special arrangement with the authorities, allowing him to leave the prison at will, but he's still obligated to serve his sentence eventually. Gringo inquires about the kid's earlier mention of being special and the blood sample taken from him, but the boy remains unable to provide an explanation. Meanwhile, Jack is on the hunt for Officer Vasquez and his partner to gather more information about the case. He stumbles upon them in a brothel surrounded by beauties, which raises his suspicions. On visiting day, the boy finds himself in a brawl with another kid, cheered on by their friends. Javi and Caracas approach, and Javi orders Caracas to protect the boy. Gringo notices the kid discreetly producing a homemade weapon from his clothing and decides to shadow them, seemingly with the intention to eliminate Javi as they walk. However, Gringo talks the child out of it, confused as to why the boy would want to kill Javi. After a heartfelt conversation, the boy reveals that Javi murdered his father to steal his liver. Javi has an incredibly rare blood type, so uncommon that all inmates are tested for compatibility, and thus far, the kid and his father are the only matches. This is what makes the boy special. Javi always takes care of him, keeping him close for the day when a new liver is needed. Jack's next destination is the impound yard, where Gringo's getaway car is located. He encounters the two cowboys we saw at the beginning of the movie, searching through the vehicle in pursuit of their stolen money. They point a gun at him, but Jack manages to negotiate with them, revealing the money's location in exchange for a fair sum. Later, Javi hosts a wrestling match, which Gringo and the young boy attend. The boy's mother also arrives and invites Gringo for a drink, but their conversation is interrupted by a prison officer who informs Gringo that he has a visitor. Officers Vasquez and Romero have arrived to interrogate him about the source and ownership of the money. They attempt to intimidate him into revealing the truth, but Gringo reminds them that they are the ones in a dangerous situation and must act swiftly. Later, Gringo and the young boy devise a plan to lure Javi's henchmen. The kid casually strolls by them while showcasing the previously stolen wristwatch. When Carlos notices it, he goes after the boy in the corridors. Gringo seizes the opportunity and deftly lifts Carnal's possessions. Later, the boy's mother invites Gringo in for a beer. They take turns sharing stories about their former partners. Gringo reveals how he lost his wife to his business associate, Reginald Barnes, and how Barnes testified against him in court, resulting in his imprisonment. He goes on to recount a recent dream where two men knock on Reginald's door and carry out a sinister act. Gringo listens as she shares the story of her late husband and her child's extremely rare Bambi blood, a blood type occurring only once in a million people. Gringo promises her that he'll take care of her kid. Later, Caracas pays a visit to Carnal to collect the estate's wages, only to find him heavily intoxicated and incoherent. Carnal mentions that someone has stolen the money, but his reputation as an addict overshadows his claims, putting Caracas in a tough spot. He's left with a difficult choice: retrieve the missing money or risk losing his job. Carnal embarks on a drunken rampage with Carlos to track down the kid. Carnal storms into their room and brutally assaults the kid while the mother cries helplessly. When he fails to locate his money, he decides to hurt the woman. Gringo is relaxing in the courtyard when Carlos approaches him. He realizes that something has gone wrong. Swiftly, Gringo dashes toward the restroom, where he has hidden the weapon. He fumbles for his concealed gun and fires at the man. Caracas arrives just in time to put an end to Carnal's rampage. As the situation escalates, a fierce struggle unfolds, with Carnal gaining the upper hand, knocking Gringo to the ground, and preparing to finish him off. In a daring move, Gringo manages to rescue Caracas, the kid and his mother, but this act lands him in a holding cell. Javi storms in armed and ready. However, Gringo explains how he saved Caracas and the invaluable kid. Javi, upon realizing that Gringo is aware of the liver situation, decides to spare him and gain more insights. Later, Gringo receives a call from Jack, who offers to assist in recovering the money in exchange for a share of the proceeds. However, Gringo refuses his offer. Instead, he tracks down Caracas and reveals that Vasquez and Romero have stolen $2 million from him. He dupes Caracas into returning the money, requesting only a 10% cut, reasoning that having his money in Javi's hands is preferable to losing it all. Unbeknownst to them, the true owner of the money, Frank Fowler, has already acquired the contact information of the corrupt officers with the help of Jack. The two cowboys from earlier have apprehended the officers, keeping them captive. Frank asserts that there were originally $4 million, but his men only located $1.7 million and 2 cars outside. Just as they are about to eliminate Vasquez, Javi's men arrive, sparking a violent shootout that culminates in everyone's death and the seizure of the money. On the other hand, Jack bribes the prison guards on Frank's behalf, ensuring protection for his men. Gringo, the kid and his mother find themselves ambushed in the prison yard by 3 cowboys. Gringo fights back, taking down 2 of the attackers and the guard above. The last cowboy hurls a grenade at Gringo, but he returns it in mid-air, resulting in a massive explosion. Following the incident, Javi threatens to kill Gringo unless he reveals the truth about himself. Gringo identifies himself as Reginald Barnes this time. Acknowledging that Frank wouldn't part with his money willingly, Gringo offers to go and eliminate him in exchange for his freedom. Javi agrees but warns him to stay away from the boy and his mother. Javi grants Gringo a driver's license and the new identity. However, he adds a twist: Javi dispatches 2 hired killers to eliminate Gringo once he finishes the task. Meanwhile, the prison warden informs Javi that the government intends to shut down the prison due to the previous violent incident. He confers with Caracas, and realizing his deteriorating health and the impending need for a liver transplant, decides to proceed with the surgery before it's too late. Gringo successfully bypasses border police using a fake ID and secures a job as an unassuming secretary. He contacts shipping magnate Thomas Kaufman, posing as Clint Eastwood, to arrange a meeting. Shortly thereafter, Gringo tails Javi's hired assassins and discreetly sabotages their vehicle by placing a cheeseburger in the muffler. Gringo swiftly eliminates Javi's hired assassins when they pull over to inspect the cheeseburger in their muffler. Meanwhile, the kid's mother watches in terror as Javi's doctor pays her a visit, indicating that the transplant is imminent. She rushes and hides the boy in a concealed wall compartment and instructs him to remain there until the situation is safer. Javi's men arrive and forcibly restrain her in the dark. They subject her to brutal torture in an attempt to break her spirit. As she struggles to stay conscious, she watches a few feet away from Javi, holding a sharp weapon and stabbing himself in the liver multiple times, all in an effort to save his mother. They rush him to the nurse to preserve his liver, deciding to perform the surgery once his condition stabilizes later that night. Meanwhile, Gringo arrives at the meeting carrying an umbrella and identifies himself as Reginald Barnes, his former disloyal business partner. He swiftly incapacitates Mr. Kaufman, locking him in the bathroom. When Frank and his representative arrive at the office, Gringo cunningly distracts them with a wall painting before discreetly placing 2 explosives beneath their feet, ensuring their deaths. He escapes as the sprinklers force him to employ his umbrella while Kaufman's secretary finds him still alive. Before he can return the money, Gringo knows he needs to address one final matter with Jack. He locates Jack inebriated and carousing with beauties in a bathhouse. Gringo binds him to a chair and commences his interrogation. Jack swiftly confesses that Javi is undergoing surgery and the prison will be closed that night, implying that Gringo won't see his money again if he doesn't act fast. After discovering the whereabouts of his wrecked car, Gringo seizes Jack's rifle and badge and hurries out of the room. A convoy of armed military vehicles is assembled outside, and special operations personnel are ready to converge on El Pablito to dissolve the prison. As the military forces surge into the prison, chaos and riots erupt throughout the facility. Javi is undergoing surgery while Caracas and his men are defending the room. Gringo enters using Jack's badge, trying to locate Javi. With battles breaking out in every corner of the prison, he rushes to the surgery room as Caracas attempts to thwart him, but Gringo slips inside just as they are about to extract the boy's liver. He forces Caracas to bring the kid's mother, threatening to kill Javi if his demand is not met. One of the nurses feigns capturing Gringo and draws a gun, giving Gringo the opportunity to eliminate Caracas and his guards. They hurriedly load the boy into an ambulance, with Gringo also securing his hefty sum. Disguised as medics, they make their escape in the ambulance, leaving Javi to his fate. Gringo retrieves the remaining $2 million stored in his car at the impound yard. They escape to a picturesque beach where they relish a carefree existence. In due course, Kaufman tracks down and eliminates the real Reginald Barnes, fulfilling Gringo's desire and establishing his ideal life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.